Greetings, fellow man. Servus Männer. This is Red Pill Germany again, and today I want to talk about the EU and Brexit. So you guys in Britain, you have a real chance to have an election, like a referendum, on whether or not you want to stay in the EU. And I think that's marvelous because we Germans, we never get asked. No one asks us what we think. I mean, there are no elections or referendums in Germany on these important issues. No chance. So first of all, I want to speak a little more generally about the European Union. So after World War II, almost everyone in Europe agreed that we can never let this happen again. So especially between France and Germany, there was a lot of exchange and people tried to build up good relations and also personal friendships between the two neighboring states. And out of this, starting from trade agreements and some collaboration, the European Union developed. Now, of course, I consider myself to be a German first, but I also consider myself a European. And I also think that some federal element and some collaboration in Europe is actually a very precious, very good thing. So, of course, all of us enjoy peace and free mobility and the opportunity to work in another country and to study there, and also free trade. Everyone is in favor of that, of course. But what really gets me upset, and not really that it offends me, but it's just so illogical and so mind-numbingly stupid. What really upsets me is that these bureaucrats we have now in Brussels and Strasbourg, these guys, they always make it appear as if the European Union in the current form and all the other good things that European integration brings are kind of a package deal that you cannot separate one from the other. And that is so stupid. I mean, people always were trading. I mean, in Neolithic times already, people went over the Alps to exchange stuff, right? And there were many examples in history of European collaboration and European structures. For example, the Crusades was a global European answer to the threat of Islam. And then later, I mean, we had the Hanseatic League, for example, that had nothing to do with military power, but was a trade federation in the Baltic Sea, actually. And of course, the Holy Roman Empire was not only German. I mean, it was basically a core European Union already back then, even though it was not democratic, but it was federalist, at least. I mean, it was not a centralized state. So there has always been collaboration and cooperation within Europe. Or do you think that other Europeans were just sitting idly by as Vienna was under siege for 2 times, or maybe in the sea battle of Lepanto that European powers would not actually collaborate against the Ottoman Empire? Of course we did that. We always stick together if we had to. So to make the case that all this peace and all this integration and all this collaboration, we only have the European Union to thank for that. That is absolutely ridiculous. European cooperation is much older than the EU, and the idea of a common Europe is also much older. So I don't really see the package deal here. They somehow want to claim all that is good and right, and that is actually much older, and they want to package that together somehow with their bureaucratic superstate. And then they tell us, oh, if you're against bureaucrats in Brussels, you must be against peace and freedom and liberties and all the good stuff, right? And no one wants to close borders for other Europeans, by the way. And there is an easy way to check that, You have a border and you have people who check passports, and if you are a EU citizen you can pass. If you're not, then you can't. And also they try to somehow bundle together the idea of free trade and that people who are not even EU citizens can just cross borders as they please. Yeah? And this is what Britons, rightfully so, are afraid of at the moment. I mean, Jesus, if there was just a way how we could really make a difference or distinguish at the border between a luxury car and a bunch of people. Oh man, if there was just a way, some technology or some procedure by which we can tell apart the one thing from the other. Oh damn, it's so retarded. Like, if you listen to these commentators in the news or to the politicians, they actually make it sound like it would be absolutely practically impossible to distinguish between an illegal immigrant and a box of tomatoes at the border. So if you close the border for one thing, you automatically close it for the other. That is absolute insanity. People were always doing trade. That didn't mean that you can just move anywhere you want. There is a difference between goods and trade and immigration. That is a difference. And it doesn't belong together. It is intellectually, it's just not correct. So if you already get upset how you can somehow lump together legal and illegal immigration, I mean, how do you feel then about lumping together importing a box of tomatoes and just letting some Pakistani criminal into the EU? So I really think that the EU was a good idea in the beginning, and I don't think there is anything wrong with having agreements, having free trade, and discussing and harmonizing foreign policy and all these things, and having more weight then, more leverage in negotiations. I think that's all fair and okay. But why can't we be like a federation? Why do we have to be a new Soviet Union? And this is what is absolutely communicated in a wrong way, but deliberately in a wrong way to the people. These politicians, they break a lot of China at the moment. The media complains about how people don't want to be bothered with politics anymore. Well, why might that be? Could that be maybe due to the fact that rational discourse and discussions in public are actually, well, I would say practically forbidden nowadays, and that the only commentaries and the only articles you can read and hear about are actually insane. They are literally insane. They say that legal and illegal immigration is the same thing, and there is only one way to think about the EU. A federation is completely unpractical. No, we have to be a Soviet-type superstate. So I think people would be much more active in politics and would be much more engaged in politics if we would allow free discussions, the free marketplace of ideas. We need that again. And I think Europe is at a point now where we cannot just go on the way we used to. I mean, we have to ask hard questions here. I mean, is this the kind of EU that we want? And people were doing that, and especially politicians from Great Britain were doing that, but they were always overruled, and nobody seemed to listen to them. And I think especially about France, Italy, and Germany, they always seem to want more integration and more socialist, Soviet-style superpower and less of the federation. And the good thing about the federation, and I say that as a German, Germany has always been a federation. There is inherent competition in a federation. You see that in Germany, for example, how the different states, they compete in terms of industrial output and educational success, like how good the school systems are compared to each other and all these things. So I think competition is really great, and in a federation you can combine competition on the one side, but also collaboration and working together really to be a stronger unit, so to speak. So I think a federation can be a wonderful and really flexible thing, and you can, in a federation, when you kind of stress one aspect more in one situation and the other a little more in the other situation, you can really adapt to situations as they change in the world and in world politics. So I would be really in favor of a federalistic European Union, and I really have no love for Brussels and Strasbourg. This is really horrible what's going on at the moment, and I think Great Britain should think very hard and very long before really casting their vote, because I think there is a lot of propaganda going on at the moment. On the one hand, the EU is demonized, but I think rightfully so, if you ask me. Maybe some people take it too far, and one can argue about that. But at the current point, and the way that politics actually is done in the EU, that means the people who make the decisions are not elected by the people. And I think this is horrible. I mean, if you want to make the EU some kind of a state or state-like thing, you need to introduce democracy. And I think democracy can only exist in national states. So I think a federation of sovereign nations would be the best answer. But this is the stuff that we should be discussing right now. But this is not a choice that was left to you guys. I mean, the only choice you have now is in or out, right? And at the current moment, I would say leave. Cut your losses and leave the EU. And don't get bullied by all this. Oh, you have to renegotiate all your trade agreements, and we will not let your stuff in, and you don't get BMWs anymore. This is all a bunch of bullshit. I mean, we have a lot of trade with Switzerland, and Switzerland also doesn't have the euro. Switzerland is also not part of the EU. We have a lot of trade with them. I know from my place of work, we actually import a lot of heavy machinery from Switzerland. So Switzerland is not just banking and chocolate and cheese. They have actually a really strong industry in terms of machining and chemicals, pharmaceuticals, and all that stuff. So yeah, there is actually, I don't see any threat there really. I mean, we will still have free trade. I mean, that's ridiculous. These are bullying tactics, and they try to make you scared, that you would be all alone then. But I don't really buy into that, because the European people will not allow that Great Britain is somehow left out in the rain. I mean, we just have a different kind of partnership then. Like we have a different kind of partnership with Norway, or a different kind of partnership with Switzerland. But we're still a family. I mean, back then, literally, the ruling powers were literally like one family. I mean, of course not one family, but they were all related. So you might think of them as one family. And this is what we are in my mind. But I think the national state is the natural unit of government. I can just tell you, don't be afraid. Don't let the bullies win. Make up your own mind, and think long and think hard. And if I were in Great Britain now, and me as a German, it hurts me, of course. Yeah? If you leave, I have to pay more taxes probably. But I can just say, as a fellow man, leave the EU. So thanks for stopping by again, and I hope you have a great day. Servus, Kameraden.